I do just want to show you what I'm actually wearing. God, it's so cute. Look at this. I mean, it's technically a Halloween dress, and I would usually wear it with a petticoat, but like, it's so cute. I just... Hey all, it's Starzy, and today we are doing my April wrap-up. So I'm back at full-time work, and otherwise I have been spending a lot of time playing games with the girlies, so I'm not necessarily doing a ton of reading, but I did read some things. I'm very aware of the fact I'm kind of losing sunlight here, but the first thing I read was, of course, It Got a Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This I did talk about in a vlog. I have vlogged the past few weeks, so most of these things I have already talked about, but this is technically the fourth book in a fantasy series but this is the first one following these characters specifically, because this follows, of course, Nestor and Cassian and their romance, because this is very much a romance book, not so much with the fantasy plot, very much more the romance, more so than any of the previous other books have been, including how freaking smutty this book is. It's very smutty, but I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 out of 5. Not peak literature, but enjoyable. I did have some problems, which I've spoken about again. Go watch that vlog. I'm not repeating everything I said, but yeah, I particularly loved the friendships in this. That was kind of the standout for me, were the female friendships. I did enjoy it, so. I've also been listening to the Del Toro Quest series, which is my favorite childhood series that I actually hadn't read since I was a kid, but I've been really enjoying the experience, so I'm very happy about that. This is, I think, the 4th, so this is Dread Mountain, which is the one that I finished recently. Yeah, very dark for a fantasy series, still love it, even now as an adult, so really enjoying this. Yeah, I've talked about this for like many months because I've been listening through them, and I'm currently listening to the 5th one, so you'll see more of them. But yeah, if you like children's fantasy and you've never read Del Toro Quest, do recommend. I also read a horror manga this month that was actually at the school library, and I took it over the holidays, and I'm like, I'm gonna save some kids from some nightmares, perhaps, because Shiva by Junji Ito, which is a collection of short stories of Junji Ito's horror manga short stories. So the illustrations in this at some points are quite horrific and or disgusting. There are some stories I really enjoyed. There are also some stories that I didn't like so much, which can be a bit of the problem with these kind of short story collections. So I gave it a 3 overall, just because there was a story or two that just was like, but not in a good way, at least for me personally. But yeah, there were some really interesting ones in here. You have like cannibalistic models. Well, not cannibalistic because they're not human, but you have like monster models. You have face balloons. You have lots of weird stuff. Definitely not for the faint-hearted, but if you like horror and weird stuff, and again, you have to, because it is all quite very visual, you have to make sure that you're okay with some weird visuals. Not necessarily my favorite art style personally, but it does the job, and I did enjoy it overall. There were just a couple of stories that brought it down for me. The other things that I completed this month were 2 arcs that I got through NetGalley. So I finished The Conductors by Nicole Glover, which is a historical fantasy set kind of just after the Underground Railroad. That's kind of where it's set. So the backdrop of this story is very much set up in kind of racial politics and magic. So it was really interesting to see how the magic's been interwoven into all that. And overall, the kind of plot of this story involved like murder mysteries and missing people. So there was a lot of interesting stuff going on, a lot of interesting ideas, but I did personally feel like it was quite a slow read, and it definitely wasn't something that I was like excited to keep picking up. So as interesting as some of the concepts were, for me personally, It was just kind of an okay experience, so I think it was another one I gave 3.5. I do think some people are probably more likely to enjoy it a bit more than I did, but for me personally, that's kind of where I was sitting. Lots of interesting concepts. There was a really lovely relationship in this book, in terms of a relationship that really grew and blossomed in this story, and there were some nice friendship moments, but yeah, definitely not a bad book, just didn't click for me personally into like something that I loved. And then the other arc that I just finished was The End of Men by, who's it by? By Christina Sweeney Bard, which is one that I've just talked about a bunch in my vlog that will probably go up the week before this does. But it is a story surrounding the plague, so basically a worldwide pandemic. So very interesting to be reading right now, and I think it was completely coincidental on the author's part. So it's really weird from that perspective, and really weird to be reading right now and being able to see those parallels. But that also made it kind of interesting. But it is a flu-like illness that is deadly, very high mortality rate. However, it is only killing off men, and women are asymptomatic. There were also some interesting discussions surrounding like LGBTQ issues that I wasn't really expecting, and there were some various interesting things that were discussed throughout it. Yeah, so it was another one. This one had so many interesting concepts, and at the very beginning I was quite intrigued kind of learning about how this was being introduced. But the book kind of goes across quite a long period of time. It's constantly jumping forward in years, so that we're going from when it first broke out to kind of how people are dealing with it throughout to kind of the aftermath. And you're also following lots of different perspectives, lots of little different people's stories thrown in there, so it was a bit much at times trying to keep track of everything and the way it jumped around. But yeah, I think this is another one I'm going to give a 3.5 because yeah, lots of interesting things going on, but I felt quite detached from it because of all the jumping around and all the different characters, and there were just some things that didn't feel, some things that just felt a bit like, oh, is that how things would go, do we think? Or some things, or there were just some characters that were just like awful and was like, I don't want to read about you anymore, you're getting on my nerves. But yeah, definitely an interesting read, especially given parallels to what has happened in our world over the past year. Yeah, so that's actually everything that I read this month. Very quick rundown. Again, a lot of those I've talked about in vlogs previously if you want some more details, but that's kind of my brief thoughts. We've still been watching Critical Role, of course. I watched a little bit of Shadow and Bone. I've only watched the first 3 episodes so far, and I don't know how I feel about it yet. Don't know how I feel. But in terms of movies, we've watched Avengers Age of Ultron, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America Civil War, and Thor Ragnarok. So some of my favourite Marvel movies in there. But I won't go too far into those because they will probably make their way into Marvel specific videos at some point, just as I did do that video ranking Marvel Phase 1 I have already done. That's already up on my channel. And the other thing we did watch though is we watched Love and Monsters, which is a movie where it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic movie, but what the thing that's terrorizing the earth are giant monsters, which are largely like animals and bugs of our world that have become like giant and deadly because of that. And then you're following this young man who is trying to make his way across this dangerous environment to go see basically his old ex-girlfriend, and it's going to be some kind of grand love story. That's kind of the general plot, and it was a fun movie. It was a fun movie. I think I gave it 3.5 stars because while it might not be like the most amazing thing out there, it was fun and it did have some touching moments, so I did enjoy that overall. Yeah, so that is everything that I read and watched pretty much in April. And now it's May, which means it's my birthday month. My birthday is on the 17th of May. Very exciting, very exciting. This video is probably going to go up like the week before my birthday, I think. In which case it'll be not very long before my virtual party. I'm having a virtual party on the 15th, Saturday the 15th, my time. 11 o'clock. But yeah, do check out the vlogs and stuff if you want more details on my thoughts on any of these things. But otherwise, that's going to be me out, probably one of the shortest wrap-ups I've ever filmed, but I am also supposed to be going to Dungeons and Dragons very soon. Let me know what was your favourite thing that you read or watched in April, and I'll catch you next time. Stay safe and starzy out. Just for a snippet of the kind of things you see in Shiva. Beautiful, beautiful creepy images. Lovely.